All right.
Mike.
I call to order the Torchlight Township Special Working Session Board Meeting of October 8th, 2021 at 1:06.
105.
1:05. The primary purpose of this meeting is to discuss the agenda items listed below. No additional township business will be accepted at this meeting. Our first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment? I hear none. Our next item is the approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes that we need to go through. First one is the September 24th meeting, which related to the working session for the policies. Are there any changes to that,
The 24th, you said,
to the
right?
24th?
Are you at the 12:52 one or
I'm
the
at the regular working session for the policy changes.
123?
Yes, 123 start. I had none.
I had none.
I thought I went through and worked through the changes that Bob and I did to make sure that we had captured what were in the minutes. And so kudos to Veronica for the minutes. All right, with no changes, I make the motion to accept the minutes for the special board meeting of September 24th, 2021, policy working session as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Can I just have a clarification? I guess I'm answering my question. That was the meeting that I came in late and you had a special meeting before it.
No.
And you,
No,
No,
nope.
no,
okay, I have two September 24th
Right.
meetings here. And one was our working session,
that's one we're doing right now, Alan.
correct. But then what's this other one on September
Well,
24th?
That was the one in which Bob Spencer discussed the FOIA that he had presented. And it was only, we were supposed to have, at that meeting, we were supposed to also have two EMS additions. And the
Okay,
paperwork did
yeah.
not come through and we had to change the agenda by deleting those items since we didn't have the documents.
So Bob's meeting with us started at
12:52.
12:52, which
Yeah.
was, so I was at that one.
Yes,
And then, but then we didn't get that done with that until 1:23. Gotcha. So we
Correct.
didn't start at 1 o'clock. Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
all right. So it's been moved and seconded to accept the special board meeting of September 24, 2021, policy working session as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we accept those minutes. The second meeting is I make the motion to approve the minutes for the special board meeting of September 24th, 2021. I have at 12:45, that's the way we had set up the meeting. It started at 12:52. Any changes to those minutes?
I have none.
Hearing none, I make the motion to accept the minutes for the special board meeting of September 24th, 2021. Is there a second?
I'll second
Thanks, Alan. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Are there copies of those minutes available?
Yes, they are. In fact, would you like my copy?
You should have it in the packet that you just picked up on.
There's, let's see. The policy session, working session minutes. Draft minutes. Meeting called to order at 12:52, all present, no citizen comments. Motion to approve agenda, citizen comment, none reviewed our Spencer FOIA. No public comment, no board comment. So those are done.
Those are the minutes.
Okay, well,
Turn that page over, the minutes on the backside of the one there. Because you're missing a page, there are two on Oh, you got it, okay.
All right, where are we
Well,
here?
I won't belabor the point other than to say there was a little more substance to that meeting than is indicated in the minutes.
So noted, Bob.
So I will, and my whole primary concern is communicating the message.
I think the message-
I'll just leave it at that, 'cause that's not,
I think the message was communicated effectively. And as I've told you that your concern is how you're going to get the FOIA followed. And I told you, as long as I'm here, we will be following it appropriately.
yeah.
All right. Moving to the purpose.
Understood, yeah.
Thank you. Moving to the purpose of this meeting. As a reminder, we will not be spending time going over the policies on a line-by-line basis. Rather, we will address any questions you may have as to what was written. As to the process, we will review each of the 3 items. And I think tonight we have 5 items. If an item does not have any questions or reworked items are reviewed with no further questions, then it will be assumed the item has been reviewed and ready to be added to the resolution package, which will be used to pass all the policies. If an item has questions, we will resolve those items during this session so that we can move it to the resolution package. If a consensus is not reached, but there is a majority who agree with the final changes, then we will move to the resolution package. Policy 5.0 is coming up tonight, and we will be working with the HR specialists with that, along with comparing it to the employee handbook. So with that, we will move to our first item, which will be policy 2.0. We have had a number of iterations with that. We spent a lot of time. Bob and I have gone through it. So Bob, I will let you go through however you wish so that we can close this one down today.
Okay. Thank you, I'm gonna take this
Yep.
gag off.
It's easier to listen and hear you better too. Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. So what I tried to do, and I will commend Veronica on her excellent set of minutes for the prior meeting we had with this group, because it made it easy to put this kind of list together. But I tried to put in chronological order every edit change in policy 2.0. And so what I have given you is a 4-page summary of those edit changes. And then I've given you the complete chapter 2.0 in full. And so all the edits are in there. The syllabus of edits is the 4-page document. So what I'd like to do is go through the 4-page
Okay.
document, and you can follow along if you want in the full 14-page ordinance proposal. So we did simple things like, and these edits are numbered chronologically. So number 1, we added the word date in section 2.4A. And if you go to 2.4A at the bottom of the first page, you'll see the word date in the middle of the paragraph highlighted in yellow in the blueprint. So you
Yep.
can follow through all these. Section 2, or the number 2, section 2.4C, public notice of meetings. Add the following paragraph to this section: the board shall comply with all Open Meeting Act requirements, period. And further, the board decrees. And then the language in blue we had in the prior proposal. Sorry.
That's okay.
The,
You're fine. We just started.
sentence in red was something David Revore added after that meeting we had
Okay,
prior, so, and I think he's right there. Let's just say, you make a formative statement that the board shall comply with all open meeting requirements.
Bob gave us and that's what we're going through, a new set of documents, just verifying the corrections.
I've got two documents there.
We just started,
yeah,
Jason.
Jason,
Jason,
not a problem. Take your time.
One's a 4-page document of brief edits, and the other is the 14-page ordinance with the same information.
Okay,
Okay, so that's the second change. The third one was adding the phrase, and on the township's website for notices, meeting notices.
Yep.
The next section was 2.5. The word may was changed from the word that was there previously, which was shall. It's now the agenda may conform to the following general format. We
Second.
changed in 2.5G, we changed EMS director's monthly report to ambulance director's monthly report. And we eliminated the report of the ordinance enforcement officers, so things kicked up a notch. And item 7 became additional items where previously it had been in the ordinance enforcement officers report.
Jason, the second part of that, there's another part underneath there, is where he's following, right?
yeah, he's got it. He's doing the 4-pager.
Oh, the 4-pager,
So
okay.
the sixth change in section 2.5H, just had to get the correct order of these things. Items for board action, board discussion, and information. We had that, or I had that order mixed up.
Right.
So we got it the way the supervisor wants it now. Item 7, 2.5, paragraph I, got changed to public comment. We had incorrectly reversed the township board member comment with the public comment. And this switches them back in number 7 and number 8.
Mhm.
Going to the second page of edits, section 2.6A, the chairperson. This is a modification. So we had quite a discussion on the role of the clerk in the event that supervisor was not present. So the township supervisor, if present, shall moderate and chair all meetings of the township board. So the change there is the phrase if present. And then the rest of that in blue, highlighted by yellow, says, if the supervisor is not present, the township board, under direction of the township clerk, shall elect by voice vote a member of the township board as a moderator of the meeting. The township clerk has the same powers and duties as a moderator until a moderator is chosen. If the clerk is also not present, a board member who is present would lead the vote of a moderator, assuming there is a quorum present. So that's all new language from our discussion, but I think it covers a
Yep.
lot of fronts personally. But,
Yep,
and by the way, guess where I got that? The MTA. So, moving on to edit number 10 and 2.6E, it was adding the word "and." As you can see, number 11, meeting decorum and code of conduct, that's all language that has been in the past. I think it was present in the past, but it got inadvertently omitted.
right.
In one of the copies, so now it's back. And that was something that Bob was concerned about. Let's see, the next section, 2.8. This was me just doing a little editorial change. No more than one special presentation per meeting with a time limit of 15 minutes, period. I didn't think we needed to say per meeting twice in one sentence anyway. So moving along, the record of meeting in section 210, we changed electronic tape and added audio and video recording instead of electronic tape recording. And also in section 2.10, the last line of the second paragraph, after the word audio, we added the phrase or video,
Mhm.
which has been omitted. Down to the 14th change, section 213, closed sessions. It says, and this is right out of statute, a person requesting a closed hearing may rescind the request at any time, in which case the matter at issue shall be considered after the recession, only in open sessions. So if they rescind that deals with to hear a complaint or deal with a personnel matter by an individual, that individual has to request a closed session. And if they don't, they have to do it in open session. That's what that says. Okay, the 15th change, section 2.17, ordinance adoption of following modifications. As suggested,
Bob, can I stop just for a second there? Back to what we learned on that, should there be a part in this policy that indicates that we have informed the person who is going into a closed session, especially for disciplinary actions, their rights under this? Because it seems like that could be overlooked.
that'd be easy to do.
This is under closed sections here, this caption.
Right, but I think what Alan's saying is that the individual has some rights.
I didn't see it either when I looked through the FOIA section in here either. So that's why I'm bringing it up.
That's in our
It's in the
policy.
Open Meetings Act, it's in the statute of the Open Meetings Act.
Well, again, most people don't know.
It's in
it.
our
Most-
handbook. It's in our handbook, though, a personnel handbook.
Well, I just think it's really important. I think it's a very serious, I mean, it's like when you arrest somebody, you tell them your rights, you know, that thing? Because they don't know it either. I just thought,
It would be easy to put in.
How would you propose wording something like that, Alan?
I'd have to study it a minute.
You wouldn't do it under closed session section there. It's in our handbook, too.
But
There-
if there's a closed session, theoretically, if it's dealing with a personnel matter, you have a closed session, that already implies the individual has requested a closed session,
Right. They already are aware of it.
theoretically.
Mhm.
Just a case in point, that didn't happen in the earlier closed session. And so, but I think to Alan's point, if somebody requests, regarding a personnel matter, requests a closed session, then that's the only way it can be granted.
My only concern is that if they didn't know that, we're in jeopardy at that point. In terms of letting them know what their rights would have been under that. And it's a very simple statement that somewhere here, that after they've been informed of their rights to or not a closed session, and then we go into closed session if they've chosen that, I think we're in jeopardy if that's not stated. We, the board. And to me, it's a serious misstep.
Well, I think the question is if the attorney requests it and states it in a letter, then regardless of that particular item, that the content of that discussion may or may not include a person. But if it's a legal matter that the lawyers have presented, then I'm not so sure that it's necessary to identify the person at that point.
Would it be better to put it under personnel then? A personnel issue?
The board can't go into closed session to discuss a personnel matter that has not been requested by the person who's being focused on by the board.
Not arguing that. I'm not arguing against that. What I'm saying is
Understood.
if the lawyer is coming to us and wants a closed session and it pertains to an individual, but we don't know what that matter is, then we go into closed session with the lawyer. Now, if it's personal, then it's up to the board then to stop that meeting and come out of closed session, I would assume.
If it's a personnel matter.
Right.
Yes.
But if it's a matter associated with the person on a different issue, a potential breaking of a law, then that particular item you would not identify that person in open session because of the nature of the closed session.
I think you're dancing that.
I may be, but to put a blanket statement that says if we're going into closed session based on the attorney and there's an individual involved in that, but it's not a personnel matter, and if we define a personnel matter, that would be associated with, I'm assuming, hiring, firing, dismissal, something of that nature. Is that what you're referring to as a personnel, or is it a performance matter?
Wow.
All disciplinary actions on an employee in which the employee will have a right, because they're going to hear those disciplinary actions in a board meeting. They would
Right.
have a right to know that they can do that publicly, or that we can go into a closed session to do it.
Right.
Has nothing to do with what an attorney has to say about it.
The attorney can then be requested by the board or by a subset of the board to provide a written legal opinion about a certain set of circumstances that may involve a single employee or a group of employees. So that's one reason an attorney can write you a letter to request a closed session to share his written legal opinion. It has to be written, it can't be verbal, but we can do that. And that's through the Freedom of Information Act, and that's how boards, public boards, get around the strict requirement of the Open Meetings Act. They have the attorney develop an opinion. What you can't do is talk about anything but the opinion. And you can't talk about, okay, how are we going to use this opinion after we get out of closed session? You can't do that. That's a violation. But how anyone would want to do.
Well,
Bob, if we're going into a disciplinary action with regard to an employee, we don't need a letter from the attorney. The basic thing there is that we're going to discuss a disciplinary action, and you as an employee have a right to yea or nay the closed session, and we need to inform you of that, that's all.
That's true, Alan, but you can't go into closed session. Splitting hairs perhaps, but the employee has to ask if it's a disciplinary matter. The employee has to ask for closed session, because as you mentioned.
No, they don't, well, yes, they have to ask for it, but they don't, it seems to me we should tell them the rights. We can do this in open session if you wish, or in closed session. My experience was they always chose closed session. But I mean, it could happen, but we might have a situation in which the employee says, yeah, I want to talk about it.
We've had that here. We've had that towards the township when I was supervisor with the employees situation, given the choice, that individual went in the open session.
See, they don't know, again, this is like, I don't want to memorize all the FOIA steps. But, and you can't expect employees to know all those things, even with the handbook and all the things that you have to read there. Yeah, it covers us. Well, it's in our handbook, they should have read it. But I think that, because of the seriousness of usually that kind of meeting, I think that we would be correct in somewhere stating in our policy that we inform the employee of their options, of those two options.
I'd want to see that language and pass it by.
Play with it.
Yeah.
I was hoping we could finish this today.
What,
We
we
will
could,
not finish this today.
well, no, I think if Ellen would agree, I think that we could take that specific type of item and put it into the personnel policy
Might fit there. It might
5.0,
fit there, yeah.
because
I'm sorry.
in that, because right now in the policy 5.0, I think that's it, right, Bob? We have nothing at all stated with regards to dismissal or reprimand or anything of that sort.
That's right.
So my feeling is that when we get to 5.0, that's where we can figure out how to put this languages, because we're not going to finish 5.0
That
today.
could work. That could work, yeah.
All right, so that we ought to be able to proceed then, Bob.
Put into 5.0. In the meantime, I'll try to craft some language and get a hold of David before, see what he can come up with.
All right, so we
Page
were,
8.
which one were we at?
We're on
Page 8.
Okay,
You just,
So we just did number 8, right?
yes,
On the number 9, which was 2.6. We did talk about the supervisor, if present, and the role of the clerk.
We've done that one.
And then the next one, you had the word "and" between behavior and be respectful of others. And the language that was where are we?
We should be on 9 now.
We have page 13. Are we in litigation?
Bob, are you on page 9?
I am on, well, I'm going through my,
You've got your other set. Okay, I'm sorry. Yep.
now actually, I think, guys,
We got 2.22
right,
litigation.
well, let's see, I just
And it would
finished.
be number 15 on that page 4.
well, what we needed to do, guys, we got sidetracked with Alan's comment on,
It would be page 10, ordinance adoption. We were on number B, publication.
yes, to the 15 days.
Yes.
Thanks, Jason.
Mhm.
Okay. So 2
So that's your, Bob, that's your number 14B.
Yep.
I'm sorry, 15, yeah, 215.
2.17.
Yeah, that would be,
1.17.
yep,
Paragraph A. You'll see where the days got standardized at 15. We put in on top of page 11, paragraph E, 2.17, the definition of a business day. And we were
Yep.
struggling with that. But it says a business day typically refers to any day in which normal business operations are conducted. In the United States, this is generally considered to be Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. local time, and excludes weekends and public holidays.
So board, we went around on that quite a bit. Any comments on this?
No, I would just, that's,
It gives you a little wiggle room. It's generally considered to be Monday through Friday. You can,
Yeah.
you got some wiggle room there, but
You know, because of that contrast in the law, that one law on zoning, I think it is, if we just said, if we only use the word day, then we're always good. Because if it goes back to business day, we've covered the business days by just saying days and adding the weekends in there.
I was gonna do this and I didn't, so I apologize. Part of the law speaks in terms of business days, and the other part doesn't talk about business days. And I can't remember if it's the ZBA notice requirements talks about business days, and the planning commission notice requirements talks about days. And, in fact, that this particular matter came up earlier this year. And, so, business day is in the statute for one of those two groups. And what about the township board days? And public notice requirements?
It doesn't work because it says within those days, doesn't it? That screws it up. It says within 15 days or 10 days or whatever. Okay, I don't know how to help you. Don't know.
Well, I would suggest we move forward with the language as presented. And I mean, it's one of these things
it's a
that,
standing point.
yeah, it starts us there. And if in fact at some point there's clarity that comes out of the fog on this thing, then we can go in and modify the policy very quickly.
Well, my question then says, should we just also define days? We're defining business day here. If the statute says days, should we define
What is,
days?
what is it?
I think it becomes a monster.
Yes, what is it?
Okay. Well, days would be days, period. No,
Well,
no exception.
You would say calendar days. You would have
Calendar days,
to-
yeah.
You'd
Calendar
have
days,
to
right.
put that word in there. And that definitely gives a different opinion versus
Right.
business day. But we don't want to have both of those things in there.
Defeats
That would be a
purpose.
monster.
Defeats
I think
purpose.
I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that there's like 140 some religious holidays
Yeah,
every calendar year.
Well-
From Sanskrit holidays,
here,
you name it.
I guess we'll make
Oh.
the decision along the lines of, is there a consensus that we leave
Business
the
days.
language based on Bob's presentation?
It's fine. Yeah,
Anybody
I agree with
object? I see heads nodding. Bob, we'll keep it as a consensus item then.
I just want to point out, that if you look at that line, we scratched out the phrase "in full."
Right.
The ordinance shall be published in full. You don't want to do that. Publish
No.
the summaries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving along. On to litigation 222. Okay, a couple things here. The first paragraph states, the Township Board reserves the authority to authorize and direct the course and conduct of any lawsuit, litigation claim for injunctive relief, writ of mandamus, or other legal proceeding, notwithstanding its initiation for extenuating circumstances. So the board reserves the authority. That was a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. Okay, how does this fit if we've got the zoning administrator issuing municipal civil infractions, et cetera, et cetera? The board reserves the authority to authorize and direct. That's a
Okay.
bottom line. And then beyond that, the next sentence, again, a lot of this came out of the MTA policy handbook, but deals with the issue of extenuating circumstances. Is that next paragraph, the initiation of any lawsuit, litigation, claim for injunctive relief or writ of mandamus or other legal proceedings shall require a majority vote of the board, except when there are extenuating circumstances. Extenuating circumstances are defined as an emergency situation which cannot wait until a special or regular board meeting of the board, or a situation in which a violation of any state, federal, or local ordinance constitutes a public nuisance or otherwise endangers the public, and in which the continued existence of such condition, emergency, or violation shall be detrimental to the health, welfare, and/or safety of the township and/or its constituents. Extenuating circumstances also include any situation where the continued existence of any condition, emergency, or violation may jeopardize the legal position of the township in securing the intended remedy in any lawsuit, litigation, claim for injunctive relief, writ of mandamus, or other legal proceedings. So, again, that's right out of the MTA handbook. I think it helped clarify somewhat your concerns about who's going to be able to initiate lawsuits or litigation or goof up our legal possibilities if they do get involved. You know, the board controls everything.
And that MTA book went through tons of scrutiny by many attorneys and many people. So it was
Sure.
it was years in the making.
Sharon, are judges on duty on the weekend at the county? Not at
No.
all?
The only question I have is I keep trying to work through a process. So some extenuating circumstance comes to the note, the supervisor is notified, and we need to do something. Is it the supervisor then conducts a poll, a phone poll of the board members for their approval? Because I am assuming that at that particular, you can't have a meeting, but it's the board and not specified that it's the supervisor.
I think that
But you're,
my reaction is the supervisor would have that kind of authority.
that's correct.
Pursuant to
Yes.
polling the board and getting broader boards.
Right, so that,
Right.
If it's an emergency, you got a chemical spill in downtown Eastport, and.
You're not around and then the board
somebody's gotta
steps
make
in.
a decision.
Yeah,
That's right.
okay. Well, my feeling is that if that happened, I would certainly make a telephone call to the board to notify them of what happened and to get their input.
You would,
But
You would-
initially, it might be more important for you to make the call to emergency services, hazardous waste control or something.
911.
Yeah.
they would already know some of that already.
Yeah. All right, I got it.
Okay, and just one more repetitive claim for injunctive relief with mandamus or other legal proceedings added to the last sentence in that
Mhm.
22.2 litigation section, which that is some in substance of, I think, some pretty substantive improvements in what was 2.0. I would be happy to make the recommendation that you support the proposal.
We're almost to the date of when it was adopted originally, October 2nd of '08, and then look at it now.
Yeah,
Well, what we've done is I've requested any additional comments. So Jason, I'll start with you at this time.
I have none.
All right, Alan?
I have none.
I have none. Sharon?
No.
All right, so hearing none, policy 2.0 has been reviewed and is now moved to the resolution package.
So is this officially revised, today's date then? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
Well, yes,
Um,
October 8th.
So we will get a totalified clean copy for our folders without all these highlights and everything,
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
Yes, at some point, you're gonna get everything that's been reviewed and
In a,
accepted, will be standardized in terms of type size, font,
okay,
how the columns are structured, paragraphs are structured.
And it
Okay.
will be in a Word document.
And we don't have that yet in all of these things.
But we'll get there, Bob.
Yep,
all right,
All right, the next,
thank you.
thank you.
so the next item, and I have to ask the board, we did not make a motion to accept the agenda. Should we do that now, or is it?
Oh, that's right, because Jason, we were waiting for Jason.
Yeah,
Right.
so I would like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, board. All right, I'd like to go to policy 11.0 next. The reason for that
Policy
is
what? I'm sorry.
11.0, which is the investment policy. I have had our auditor review it 2 or 3 times. Most recently, in the last 2 days, he has come back fully supportive. The document is basically how the treasurer really handles excess funds, and that's controlled by a Michigan state statute very clearly. There's things that we're not going to have flexibility on. And so therefore, I have no comments or concerns about what was prepared by Mr. Revore. I will open up to the board. Alan, I'll start with you if you have any comments or concerns.
I don't think, I went through it, but I don't think I did have comments. Just a second. No, I have none. I'm
I gotta
okay
get
with it.
there, just a minute.
I have none.
All right.
Sharon, did you have anything?
I gotta get to my notes here.
I would need your guidance on that.
I gotta find, I didn't put a tab in there. I can't believe I didn't put a tab in. Okay. Yeah, here's my tab right up here in the wrong page. No, because that's very statutory and that's investment policies are, the only thing we have is the investment policy as it stands, and then we have a secondary where we have the list of banks. Now, that's going to be needed and updating very soon because TCF Bank will be changing names. So along the way, we separated those. Those are purposely, because every time you change a bank name, which is often, you don't want to have to change this whole policy. So it's appendix.
Someone at the door. Do we have, is Virginia here? I can't hear you.
About what? Oh. Yep.
Oh, okay, that's
All
right.
So the bank names are an appendix to the policy. So as soon as all the paperwork exchanged, we'll have to update that because it's no longer going to be TCF Bank and all that jazz. So, I mean, those things change all the time, but no,
We went through this.
Yeah.
We went through this
We
one.
went
and
through this.
4.0. So without further ado, since there aren't any questions, policy 11.0 has been reviewed and is now moved to the resolution package. Board, I would like to then bring up policy 12.0.
I don't have that one.
do you need a motion on this at all?
No,
Or?
remember, we're going to do the motion all as a resolution package.
Oh,
All we're
okay.
doing now is
Here,
creating that resolution package.
Okay,
I
okay.
don't need it. I have it in my packet here, but I don't have
You
a
can
separate
mine.
one.
Yeah, well,
Back there?
no. This is,
27 pages. long.
right.
Oh, wow.
This is the FOIA. This policy is similar to 11.0. It's governed by a lot of statute. We've had a lot of discussions. David Revore has seen our old policy and has updated it for all the new conditions and requirements. I'm not a FOIA expert, and reading through it, I could have some questions, but that's, at this point, we're not at least I'm not in a position to question what David has done with the work he has done. So I have no comments, and I'll open it up to the floor for anyone's comments.
Of the 12?
On 12.0, which
Yeah.
is the FOIA.
Yeah, I'm not the expert either, so.
Again, what stares at me on this right off the bat is what we just discussed with regard to days. The talks, for example, we have to respond within 10 business days as our initial response to a FOIA request. Then, I'm on page 2, and then when you go to page 3, it talks about, it uses 48 days in the third paragraph down under deposit, second paragraph in part C, deposit requirements. Is that okay? Or do we have to start saying calendar days is what I'm getting at?
The form for the request, Alan, I don't know.
Let me see it. Yeah.
It does say business days on here. This FOIA request
Yeah,
form, that
mhm.
it does say business request, and we've got that noted as what business is. It says this township within the 5 business days. And it uses business throughout this form, but I didn't look at the days versus
Well-
business days elsewhere.
This deals with people having to give us a deposit for money, and they have
Yeah.
48 ordinary days. And that now, I guess what I'm getting at, does that include all days, holidays, weekends, and so forth? Is that what we're saying at this point, or are we excluding holidays?
Well, my understanding was a lot of this language is right out of the statute. So if they've,
Okay.
if they put 48 days, then, and did not differentiate it, then we're back
Maybe
to the
calendar
comment where
days
it's calendar days and not business days.
The only reason I bring that up, Bob, is because if we miss this, we're wrong and we can lose. On this one, I mean, we pay legal fees and all that, so it's like a, what is it kind of thing. I mean, I know maybe it doesn't matter.
It sounds like such a simple concept. What is the date?
Yeah, you're,
Yeah, and in the same paragraph, they use 45 days. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it.
Well,
It could be, some attorneys could be a real stickler on that. And maybe, and again, it seems to be a very dot the I requirement.
Well, let me check.
well, if you go to MCL 15.234, right? If it says 45 days in there, you're not going to, as
change
a
it.
township, you're not going to change
The
that,
law.
nor are you going to define it. And my gut would be that if we have a question as to what the day should be, that we get a second legal opinion as opposed to us trying to decide if it's calendar days or business days. It says 45 days. As far as I'm concerned, we take 45 days, but we're going to do it before that.
You know, we should ask the question ahead, because think of how many 45-day segments you can put in our calendar that include a holiday in a year. I mean, you start with.
Yeah, but you're dealing with a different subject matter when you're not talking about the FOIA. You're not going to insert additional different 45 days. You would be doing that in other areas of the township business. What you're dealing with solely is what's required by the FOIA.
Right.
I know, but if we get a FOIA that includes Memorial Weekend, is the 45 days included in Memorial Weekend?
Yes.
If it includes Memorial Weekend and the 4th of July,
It would
in
be,
that 45 days, are those
That's-
days then days?
yeah, that's
Those are
correct.
days. I mean,
Those are
that-
days.
So that's how you're interpreting it? Okay,
Absolutely.
all right. Okay, that's
Because
fine.
again,
But-
it does say in the application, business days, so they've made a differentiation between the meaning of days and business day.
Yeah, but the application deals with when we respond to them.
It's still, if you look at from the day after your request is received, they use day, but there's 5 business days in that paragraph.
Mhm.
And you go back here and it says you have 45 days. It doesn't say 45 business days. So
I think we're
45
talking the
days
same
with
thing.
everything.
Okay,
Yep, that's how I take it.
Just a little bit, I just looked up the law, your suggestion. But it talks about receiving a deposit for payment of FOIA expenses. If a deposit that is required under subsection 8 or 11 is not received by the public body within 45 days from receipt by the requesting person of the notice that the deposit is required, the request shall be abandoned. So they're talking about days that are not.
Right.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
okay,
Right.
that's good.
It's pretty clear in the way it's written.
Yeah, I think we're reading in too much onto
Right.
that.
I would agree.
So,
Other questions? I have none. Jason has none. Sharon, you have none.
No,
Alan, any
No, I have no
further?
more.
All right. Well, then,
so this eventually then will be the official
yes.
form request here as it's written then.
So-
and you notice this includes 3 appendices or 3
Attachments.
attachments. That is part of the attachment A, B, and C.
Right.
Yep. All right, so policy 12.0 has been reviewed and moved to the resolution package. Next package, or next policy is 5.0.
This one was what? What was this one here?
That was 12.0. 5.0 is the personnel.
Okay.
My comments right now is the fact that in this policy, we didn't have anything related to dismissals, terminations, the process by which we would do that. I did have a question related to volunteers and the pay for volunteers, but Bob got me comfortable in that area. And secondarily, I would say that I wanted to get everybody's comments on this first, and then I will have a meeting with Karen and also have Bob work on language regarding terminations, dismissals. So I'd like to open it up for your comments. Alan, well, I'd started with you before, Alan. Sharon?
Well, I got partway through it and I've got only a few comments, but I didn't finish it all the way up. I apologize for that.
All right, we'll take
Um,
the comments that you have.
I don't know. I've just got some brief ones here. 5.20, time cards all completed shall be submitted to the clerk. It should say payroll clerk. That's my only comment there.
That's on which page? I'm sorry.
5,
Okay,
I just said payroll clerk. So that could be anybody.
okay.
Um, And that could be throughout some of these areas that I didn't pick up on, but payroll. I went through. I didn't go through it with a fine tooth comb like I
right.
really wanted to, but I was skimming it over really quickly.
Well, we'll have another pass at this one.
Okay, yeah. I
I just
I
want
went
to
through it,
see,
and I had some other highlights in the back here, but what's these?
I just figured if there was something of substance that we either forgot something or something that really jumped out that didn't make sense, at least I would have that to go with Karen on. One question, Alan, I have for you is, do we have, because I went through the folders, have we ever really had job descriptions for all the township positions? I mean, somewhere, anywhere,
Fire chief, EMS director, zoning administrator. I don't think we've ever had one for grounds people.
are those positions required to have a job description? I mean, the deputy clerk.
That's
and the-
statutory.
Yeah, everybody else, the elected officials and the 2 appointed, the 3 appointed are all statutorily controlled. The fire chief, the zoning, how about like the assistant fire chief?
Well, no, but we do need to look at those. I was going to bring those up. We need to look at cross-trained.
We also now
Again.
have, office manager over there. I think, isn't that a description? Was that described?
Well, it's
I think it was.
fire secretary. There's a secretary, the lieutenants and captains and all that, but we don't have just, because those are statutory type of duties that they have.
So that would not be, that's really not what I would
But the
consider to be a.
cross-trained is something we created, so we need to look at the cross-trained. I
Right,
was
so-
going to bring that up because that needs updating.
So fire chief, ambulance, zoning, cross-train. Now, the various positions within the fire department, they would not be, I wouldn't look at that as a township position.
No,
That would be
no.
more along the
Lieutenants-
lines of,
Lieutenants and all that,
Yeah.
they have their own,
now, wouldn't the cross-train also be within the regulations of the fire and the ambulance?
no,
For a
we
job.
created that ourselves here because it
Okay.
involves both departments and we just need to look at that to update because.
Okay,
The problem, if you don't have those descriptions, when you get into a conflict that ends up at the board level, you don't know whose responsibility was whose.
right. No, I
We've had
understand.
those situations.
Well, I was only thinking like vacations because in the old one, I think it was annually instead of whatever, it needs to be looked up at. And
All right, well, if you think of another position, I've got basically 5 down.
well, we have the parks. Did you include the parks?
I did not because, let's see,
I mean, is
they
that-
have a description for the attendance, which I don't remember that the board ever voted on that. That would have been 2 or 3 years ago when we started the attendance.
I don't remember.
But we do have a park coordinator.
Right.
All right, I'll put that
That's what I
down.
meant. Park coordinator.
But that's an unpaid position.
Whether it's
so-
park manager or, I don't know.
Well, that's the question. If you have a township position, is it a paid position or any position that the township authorizes?
Right.
I'm looking for guidance, guys. It's just a question.
Right.
It's, you get into a conflict over whose job is what. When the wheels start to come off the wagon. And usually things flow along pretty well until there's some kind of conflict.
Right.
What about Michael's job?
He's
an
contract.
outside contractor.
Yeah.
Sorry, I tried to get you a description for you.
Where where I saw the issue is when we've got something that's an emergency for fire as well as EMS. and we have a conflict with regard to who's in charge, the incident commander, and who took charge and who's announced the taking charge. Usually it's a fire department person. Uh,
Fire chief is,
But if they're.
takes command.
But I've seen, twice now, we've seen where that didn't go well, it didn't work well because of who got there first and that kind of thing. And I don't know, it'd be good for them to sit down and talk about it and come up with some kind of a document that talks about.
they have their policy and procedure and
Situation.
manual.
There's got to be a statute or something.
They have their
that
policy and
controls that.
procedure manual in the fire department and ambulance department back there.
But do they blend? Do they work together? Do the two policies go together when they're on a situation?
They know who is in charge.
All right, so we'll have this one,
That's all
Bob.
statute by law anyway, a lot of that is.
Yeah, that's what so I've got some work to do on this one. I thought it was going to be easy,
There
but
was
it's
another
not.
one, but I can't think of what it is here.
And I will get with Karen.
Oh,
and-
zoning assistant, do we need do we need one for that?
Well, we do have one. We have job descriptions for both the zoning administrator and the assistant.
Okay,
zoning
that was, I mean, that's part of that list,
That was part of when we created that position.
right?
That was part of what was voted on.
We did one for scanner too, didn't we?
That one I'm not sure about. May have. I think it was because I think Deb created a
Well,
job
we can put that
description.
as a question mark, see if we get job descriptions for those.
I'm pretty, Kienbaum, Kienbaum. That's my guess.
That's a guess.
Yeah, we'll verify it before the minutes come out.
That's correct.
Is it? All right.
Nice.
So policy 5.0 will remain open and we'll cover it at the next meeting. Moving on to the next,
5.0 is next meeting.
Yep.
Finish it up.
policy 4.0. I had requested for policy 4.0, that was to be reviewed last. At our last meeting, it was not. I requested people send me questions if they had any. There were none submitted to me. I do have some, so Bob, if you have your
Which ones are you working on now? I'm sorry.
4.0,
Cash
Okay.
receipts, probably.
Okay.
what?
I said cash receipts, 4.2.
Well, I didn't give you my
No.
corrections because we worked on those
Yeah.
numbers, so.
We got some stuff to do. So, to bring you guys up to date, I had on the first page, 4.1B, and it's the fifth bullet that starts with clerk prepares fund balance report. This relates to the budget, and it's not the clerk that will do that, it's the treasurer that does that. Because when we get to 4.9B, there's a reference to the monthly actual results, and the treasurer has that responsibility. We'll come back to Sharon. We'll come back to Sharon's changes on the dollars. The next one is just a re-verification on page 2. The sentence just above accounts receivable, a trustee chosen by the board shall verify the reconciliation documents and initial the summary review page. I'm just giving the board a heads up that at this point, I think Jason is doing it, and Alan, I'm going to bring up to the board at the next meeting. Jason is on a number of committees. He's doing a lot of work for us, and I
I have
would
no trouble
appreciate
with
it.
it.
Would you be willing to do
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
And which
I-
one are you doing?
This is for the bank reconciliations.
Oh,
the
gotcha,
Review of the
gotcha.
cash.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yep, I
No
gotcha.
problem.
I appreciate that, Alan. Thank you. Then Alan mentioned earlier, and I'll just catch that. It's on the same page under 4.3B. method of accounting for all remittance advices. And I think, Sharon, is that advances or? Because it's accounts receivable, so it's, I'm assuming it's a remittance, so somebody came in and brought money. So it might be an advance for some because you're throwing it into a receivables account.
There's typically not an advance for anything
What-
as a rule, so the receipts up here, like on 4.2, yeah, we do have those numbered receipts that, and then if somebody's taking in money, then that comes with along with the money, and it comes in and it's receipted it all in together using both of those documents. So for all remittance advices received.
So I'm assuming it's all remittances received.
Yeah,
Advices should be taken out. For all remittances received in accordance with section 4.2C. And so that's the receipts up there. It looks like we're trying to figure out how to bookkeep this thing. So it might be for all remittances received in accordance with section 4.2C, which says a pre-number receipt. Take that, the period after the C should be a comma. Take out receipts. And it might read then, with section 4.2C, the treasurer shall credit the receivable and reconcile the general ledger BS&A.
yeah, that's all.
I think that would clean that up. Then on 4.7, expenditure control, I did put back in for purchase orders because we've had a couple instances, duplicate payments, and we don't have a real good control around, did the product, did what get ordered? Was it received? Should it be paid? Shouldn't it be paid? We were invoiced for it, but we don't know why we were invoiced for something. So, but I also know that if I remember the analysis I did on the budget back in 2018, that like 70 or 80% of our expenses are under $500 or under $1,000. Because I was looking at saying, why are we worrying about budgeting for stuff if it's less than $1,000? You know, because we have so many little things. So what I was thinking of doing is under 4.7A, after in the second sentence where it says board designee, I was going to add something along the lines as, unless it is less than $300. I was putting a $300 number that our people in the township should have some authority to spend on minor items, but not major items. And I was looking at $300 as that figure. So I throw it on the table for your opinion on that.
What might that be? Say you're the fire chief, what would you spend $300 on?
Stationary item. You know, go through the expenses, you know, there's stationery in there, there's, if they do training or education or things of that sort, they sign up for it, you know, it might be maybe it's $500 because, you know, as a, for instance, do we want to have a purchase order when somebody wants to sign up for an MTA training course?
But this is all part of their budget stuff, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
They've already got a line item for budget.
Right.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah.
but I'm trying to figure out what dollar amount that might come up that we don't require a purchase order for.
I don't know. Yeah.
You're
well,
the treasurer.
We
You-
certainly want one with the higher one, like our striker, all those,
Oh,
all
well, yeah,
that-
we say
all
that,
that-
we say that
all
down
that
below.
stuff, yeah.
But again, we're talking small miscellaneous items. If we're going to implement a purchase order process to improve the accounting procedures of the township, what seems like an appropriate number that
I
doesn't
say
require?
$300.
What's the protocol on that as far as, do they come share and get the money? Or do they-
Well, no, they would be placing an order on the phone or Amazon or something like that. They would be going out to buy something for the office or whatever.
Well, okay, I was thinking like a chainsaw or oil or something.
Well, it could be. Yeah, it could be that. It could be our,
They would need a purchase order for that then.
because it'd be over 300.
No, because they just purchased one.
A big one.
Yeah.
You know, Alan bought a chainsaw a couple of years ago. because
We
it was
just
really-
got one recently here too.
Saw that.
Yeah, we got it from up at the place shop.
We got it at
See, there's-
Gilroy's and the newest one.
But
Change,
again,
okay.
I think in term, Alan's not going to go out and spend, if he buys a chainsaw, he's going to get what he needs. And if it's more than $300, fine, we'll buy it. If he gets it for less, again, you got to entrust the people with
Oh, no, he
something.
came to me and I said, yeah, I mean, you gotta have a chainsaw.
Yeah, well, and that's my point.
And he's not, and Alan's, he's not,
I think $300.
All right,
yeah, I think that, yeah.
all right, fine.
Because when we start duplicating checks, if it's over $300, then you're starting accumulating a lot of extra duplicating
Yeah.
money that's sent out.
I'm just thinking of,
Yeah.
they're at a scene and the chainsaw's not working, they gotta go get another one. Do they gotta go get a purchase order or can they just
Right.
go to the hardware?
Right.
Well, that's what I'm trying to,
Well, are we still then gonna have charges? We can charge at the Eastport Market or
Yeah.
we have charges? Is
Right.
that gonna be require authorization? But we're talking still $300 there. It's
yeah.
$500 they gotta tell us or how's that gonna
I think
happen?
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out what the right dollar amount is, right? Because $300 doesn't buy a lot today.
No,
And again, I think in terms of things, not so much in terms of emergency type items. Well, no, because that's normal.
I'm thinking of uniforms. I'm thinking of uniforms they start buying because if they get a new hire, they're gonna have to get uniforms and pants, shirts and so forth. That stuff adds up really quick.
Yeah, and I think that's something
and-
we'd want to see if they
Or
want to replace.
replacements. They got a big tear and something happened, they gotta get a replacement. Some of that clothing can add up. Just a pair of EMT pants is like,
So for the most part, they're gonna get a purchase order. There's not
Right.
much stuff out there that they can get.
And my feeling is we set it 300 or 500 and see how it works, because we're not going to implement purchase orders overnight. So we're going to have to do training and educate and walk through things and set it up in the clerk's office. So this is not a tomorrow type event.
well, I would set it at 500 and require them to send us a note what they've done.
All right.
They go ahead with it, but they just send us a note so we're aware of it. Doesn't surprise Sharon or Kathy.
So less than $500 with an email notification. To the clerk.
Okay, what do you do with lesser? It's the same if it's a $20 item.
I'm saying 500 or less, they don't
have to get a purchase order.
have to do a
Gotcha.
purchase order.
All right, now I know where you're at. Okay.
But if they're going, for instance, you're not going to do it, Alan, if you're traveling to an MTA conference, right? But you're going to turn in an expense account. But that was an approved trip or it's part of our education, so you wouldn't have to do a purchase order for that. Miscellaneous items of certain amounts, because part of the process that has not been followed is the controls that were placed originally that said that if the clerk received a request to spend money and it went over the remaining budget, that it had to be stopped before so that you didn't have the budget amendment after the fact, you did it before the fact.
Right.
That was
So-
in the old policy. Now, we're not saying that's going to be the case. at this point, because there are decisions that you make, like we did something on the generator or something. You're going to make that decision and then it's going to blow through the budget and you do the budget amendment after you buy it. Because at some point you have to get the approval of the board. So there's timing there. The 500, I think, is good. And as we go through the implementation of a better accounting process, we'll work out the kinks.
I wouldn't go over 500. 500 is a good even number.
Okay.
It's something that they can think about, that you just can't go out and buy something and say, oh yeah, I want this, but oh, it's over $500. I better make sure that it's,
It makes sense.
yeah.
That's
What
fine.
goes through my head is all the radio stuff we went through.
Well, we need to know
Radio
all those things.
changeovers.
We just can't get, even though it's in their budget, they need to have a county has purchase orders on everything. It's
Yeah.
just a better way of managing your receipts, your expenditures, your balancing. Otherwise, they're just coming in and handing you big invoices we don't know of. Or like even the park, when we did the ground cover, we could have gotten a purchase order for that, so we knew what, anything like that, so.
Okay.
And we're getting duplicate invoices. So what's paid, what isn't paid. So if we have a purchase order number, we can always track that.
Right.
That's the reason why.
Well, it's not only that, but you get multiple invoices, but nobody has said they've received anything yet.
Right. And it's just not a good way of tracking and what paying our bills on time and
Not
everything.
that I want to get into this, but would a purchase order save our butt with the Barbara Frutos check?
A purchase order would not
No,
have unless you
No.
had set it up. The problem with that was that it wasn't properly invoiced. And the wrong persons provided the invoice. And I prefer not going down that tube again.
I
We're-
just wanted to know if that would
Yeah.
help.
The next couple of changes are on page 9. 4.9A, first sentence. At the end of
what did you
each,
do on 6? I had highlights
sorry?
in here. I had highlights in mine. Did I
well,
highlight
I
because-
said we'd come back to,
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, gotcha.
I'll give you sole
I didn't,
audience then. On that first line, I'm
where are
putting in
you
there,
at 9?
4.9A, at the end of each month, the clerk, it should be the clerk's office, because we might, at some point, we may require an accounting person, or the deputy clerk would be doing it. It would be the clerk's office. And one of the things that is a change is the budgetary line item responsibility that each month our people should get a copy of their expenses and verify that in fact they spent the money, that it got booked correctly to their account, or in some instances, stuff got booked to the day park when in fact it should have gone to a different cost center. So the idea here would be identify who the person is who's responsible for that budget line item. And they get a copy of it and they can work with whoever the people that's working on it. So the supervisor ends up with a bunch of stuff that may or may not be there. For instance, ordinance enforcement, but I'll look at expenses like roads and street lighting and make sure that based on the budget, it looks like things are being booked correctly. Or if something's missed, like lighting, like a light bill, and it's not in there for a month, there's the opportunity to go back and find out why didn't we pay it.
Or the assessor, or all these things
Yeah.
that I catch along the way.
Yeah, any of these things.
Now, you
So
made 2 changes. I had the one. Where was the second one?
it's down at the bottom, just above budgetary.
This one here.
line.
That's a spot right here then. Okay.
So those were the items that I had.
Would you highlight those again quickly?
All of them?
Or just the last two?
Well, the last two they're on page 9. 4.9A.
4.9A
A, right,
on page 9.
yep.
Financial reporting.
On my page 9 doesn't have it.
Well, what does yours say?
It deals with section 4.7D, the board audit. On page 9, it goes out to the next page 10 with the 4.8 credit cards.
Okay.
Oh,
Keep going. We're at 4.9.
And then 4.9 financial reporting is on page 11 and page 9.
Okay.
well, it's on our page 9, so. So, all right, so you're page 11, that's fine.
Then in that section, there's the word clerk.
Yes,
That one gets changed to clerk's office.
yep, at the, yep,
Office of the clerk or clerk's office?
clerk's office. Well, it's one,
Not on the next page.
Nope. Same.
no, he's got a different page.
4.9, section D, financial
Yes.
reports review. Then the last sentence of that, the clerk's office.
Yes.
is again.
Yep.
Okay. I've got those.
All right. So, Alan, any other things? Jason?
No, who highlighted these in yellow?
We did that, yeah, Bob did that, so that, now Sharon will take us through that item now. So Sharon, it's all yours.
Well, I have certain, anyway, let's just start on 4.2, cash receipts.
Yep.
Authorized to receive cash. I wanted to add the zoning admin or assistant on there because they collect all their monies for their permits and receipt it and give it to the treasurer. So they're to receive cash
Which one are you on, page, Sharon?
Page 1.
Oh,
of 4 point,
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Section 4.28,
got it, yeah.
listing the people who are
Yeah.
authorized to
Mhm.
receive.
Do you want to make that assistant zoning admin as well?
zoning admin or assistant or zoning assistant or I don't know what the terms are over there.
The official one will be zoning administrators or assistant.
I just put a backslash assistant.
Assistant zoning
Um,
administrator. So either Sarah or Jackie.
Yeah,
can
when
receive the
they
money.
take their permits and they get money, I'm
Yep.
trying to think of other people that supervisor really doesn't take money much at all.
You kidding me? I'm going to avoid that like the plague.
Yeah.
I'm not touching a dime.
But you know what happened? You know, I was alone, people came in, taxes I had, cash. We're going to say, I'm not going to say no.
Oh, no, I'm going to tell them, put it in the lockbox.
Right, we did that, I did that, exactly what I did.
But
I'd be
that,
happy to take supervisor off there.
that's fine, just leave it there. But the zoning, that's what it's their permits,
fine.
their monies they take in.
It's fine. You
And I
don't,
can't think of anyone else that really takes anyone, because you've got the deputies and
you did, no
Okay.
hard sell here.
the number two,
No,
the next
135.
paragraph, where that highlighted that 135 in there, I
Yep.
think Bob, we did talk to Adam, and he says we're blanketed the amount of $100,000. But then on top of that $100,000 is that sheet I gave everybody last time with the clerk, deputy, treasurer, deputy, supervisor, et cetera, et cetera. I gave everybody a separate sheet on that. It would be, the blanking of that would be 100,000 and then add on additionally the clerk, deputy, and so forth. So it would be like 100. So the clerk would be, and her deputy was 10,000. So it'd be 110, the clerk treasurer's 25. So I'm not sure how to word that in there. Blanket amount of 100,000 for each. And then he said, and then for under the officials, he said, this is an above and an above amount. So I don't know how, I didn't know how to word that in there.
You wouldn't have to. All you have to do is add up the total. So how much, what's the total when you add up the other, what's in your hand?
Well, each one is different.
Well, no, I know, but it just. add
So
'em
you
up.
want a blanket amount total of all of them added up
Yeah,
together?
because it says here, for each occurrence of theft.
So we don't need to break it apart then, is
No,
what you're
because
saying?
it says for all officials and employees authorized to receive cash, use township equipment or have, so it
And then-
encapsulates it there.
Okay,
So how much is that?
I didn't add it up here.
So there's 7 people listed on that.
There's 1, 2,
Yes,
3,
So that's
Four.
$700,000.
5. No,
No.
No. there's not 7. There's
There's-
clerk, deputy clerk, treasurer, deputy treasurer, and supervisor.
That will have dollars associated with it.
I thought the zoning administrator and assistant zoning administrator.
That's just to receive money.
That's just receiving it. What's in the policy would not have those two identified but they're not going to be bringing in that much money.
So that's $55,000. So would be 155? Is
Yeah,
that-
so that number now becomes 155.
Okay, even though internally, they would break it down or whatever.
Well, the insurance company will
Right,
break it down.
okay. And then he's got on here the total coverage is currently, but that's something else, I think, general liability. So let's
Right,
go
that's it.
on.
Yeah, next page.
Well, that next page, it's highlighted. That next paragraph, there's just where the dollars are highlighted in there. Some of them won't have dollars. Like let's go with the first one. There's coverage of the amount of, it has 340. He said it's 250,000.
Okay,
So what page are you?
we're on page
Two.
2,
To the top.
top of page 2.
Okay.
These highlighted numbers were numbers that Bob created with inflation from what our old policy was. So, correct, Bob?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So anyway, Adam said that's the amount of 250,000.
And he was comfortable with that.
He was very comfortable with that.
That's it's 252 in the copy. I had just changed it to 250.
250, right.
Right. And then the next one, that's the dollar amount that says 27,000 per, take that right out because he said that it's, the township shall be insured for the replacement value of. So like the replacement value of equipment or whatever loss we have. There's not a set dollar. It's going to be, so it says for the theft of equipment, the township shall be insured for 27,000. He said the theft for equipment shall be insured for the replacement value of that equipment. Does that make sense?
Was that true for the fire truck that rolled?
That's a whole
Yeah,
different.
they did give us a
insurance.
value of what that truck was. Yeah,
But not replacement value though?
yeah,
Okay.
Well, that would have been under the vehicle policy, not under,
yeah, this is elsewhere. And then going down.
the 115,
The 115 is the tools and everything, same thing, replacement value.
so that comes out.
Yeah, such as
Okay.
tools and it just should come out.
Yep, that's fine. How about the next one, 130, the township will have
Township will have a minimum of, for the loss and damage electronic.
135.
He said 250,000 is for loss of records and all that sort of stuff. Damage, he said 250,000
And the computers, didn't he say the computers were also replacement?
replacement.
So,
And I have another 100,000 in there for something, and I don't know what he said that on that phone conversation, why I wrote that in there. But
well, we have, so Bob, I think, and I can help give you the words, but the township will have a minimum of 250,000 coverage for the loss, damage, or destruction of electronic records, any records really, township records.
So changing electronic data processing.
Yeah, take that out.
Electronic records.
Well, I would call any township record. So for instance, if we had a fire in all of our records, I'm assuming there's coverage going on that. I think the equipment is basically covered in our general loss.
Yeah. They would replace all the equipment that was of replacement value of the equipment. So if we lost, refrigerator went out and somebody damaged it all up or however, whatever,
Yep, it's a
it's
replacement.
replacement.
All
There's not a
right,
specific dollar because I don't know how they could do that, but
right. So then we go to page,
Well, wait, should that section be dated? That one section? Because it could change yearly.
well, that's why this was all 10 years old from before and the numbers were so outdated. That was my question. Do we even need numbers in there? I said to Bob. And that's why replacement of value should be in there.
Okay,
And the other was the township also has additional coverage of that. So these are dated on certain dates and that would always change according to,
well, I think you want minimum value, some dollar amount so that some future board comes in and says, hey, we're going to cut our costs on insurance. And they could take the minimum down and save money on the insurance. I don't think that's, the idea here is to try to get what Adam thinks based on who we are and what his general thoughts were, what the dollar amounts of coverage we should have.
okay.
All right, then,
bank reconciliations. Alan's going to start doing those. Do we have,
now, do you have,
a trustee chosen by the board. That was my question is, do we have a specific name? No, that's a trustee. So, warrants, we talked about the warrants. Petty cash is okay. Electronic transfers definitions are okay. Responsibilities and so forth, that's okay.
Is petty cash enough? I mean, you go buy stamps. You can
Petty cash is not enough. That $100 goes quickly.
Yeah,
so what do you want to make it?
I was going to change it at the time of when it comes time to do our fiscal year, whatever, but we need to do at least 200. I'm constantly running the bank for $100 check all the time
Well,
because half of it's, there's a bunch of it's change. So actually you have $70 or $75 or $80. The rest of it's coin. You're not doing about $10 in coin.
How many years has it been at 100 now?
A very long time.
How many decades?
I complain about every time I count that petty cash box, every,
So why don't you make it $500?
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
I complain every time I go in there and run to the bank
sure.
for $75.
Bob, change it to $500, please. Do we have to do that in a board motion or what?
I didn't know when to do it. I didn't know when to do it.
Yeah.
All right. I would say 250,
No, 500.
500 petty cash.
Yeah.
I don't want that much cash in that box. I don't want that much
that's a good
Why?
cash.
idea.
You're
I
in
think-
charge of it.
Well, everybody knows how to get into that box. I don't want to be responsible for $500 in there.
All right, 250.
250.
I figured $500, you'd make sure nobody got in
No.
it.
Oh, I make sure for every penny that's in there, literally.
Yep, all right.
And when I cash it out, and there's receipts this big for all my audits in there. I
All
gotta
right.
clean those out.
You have to change that $250 figure in 50 years.
Yeah. But I gotta figure out how we're just have to cut a check for another. Anyway, we'll take care of it. I didn't know what time to
Sharon,
do
it's-
it.
It's
All right.
minor. It's
Yeah,
minor.
I do complain about that all the time.
Yes.
I think page 4 was okay. And that. We had a lot of discussion on this. I remember when Larry Tomlinson was here, worked on a lot of this. I didn't have anything highlighted here.
Good.
And then page 6. I did have all those numbers highlighted. I don't know why.
Well, because
Bob highlighted those, right?
Bob highlighted them, but,
And then I highlighted them.
and then we got feedback, if you'll remember, we got some feedback from Todd that said the numbers ought to be a little bit bigger. So in case of emergency, he thought that the 13.5 rounded to an even 15 was his thought. I don't care if you leave it at 13.5 or make it 15. And then for any purchase order greater than 1350 shall require the signature of both the township clerk or township supervisor. My thought is that we should make it 15. And it should be either the clerk or the supervisor. You don't need both signatures. But it does, when somebody wants to spend the money, it's going to come to somebody's attention.
Right.
And then down where it says written quotes and sealed bids, I changed that back to $5,000. I think that's kind of what we've kind of been running with.
Right.
Bob inflated it to 6,800 for the cost, but
Right.
I leave it up to the board.
Go back up. What were you talking? I didn't write my note there.
15,000 for.
Not to exceed 15?
Right, in case of an emergency.
Okay. And in my mind, I kept thinking, what kind of emergency? And
Right.
I'm-
That's what my thought as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, well, we need computers right away, or we need generators or whatever,
Furnace.
furnace.
Well, we might need say for example, we couldn't come in the building, we might need a place to work,
Right.
kind of stuff. That'd be a real emergency.
Yep.
But it's, that emergency word is what throws me. What is so desperate? It could happen.
Well, I don't think that as supervisor, I should, unless there's a category that you want to put in there, I don't think that I should be able to independently authorize a purchase order or an agreement that is at $15,000.
What could happen is you need something and you really need it, but the best they can do is 3 weeks from now. But the guy down the street's got it for a little bit more and you could get it.
Our
Follow me?
bathroom's all backed up, or
That kind of thing could happen.
our water well went
hey,
dry.
Yeah, we had that big leak in the garage, that
Well,
one
look,
time in the
then-
wall.
Then I would say the question is it either the clerk or the supervisor, or do you just say the township supervisor may independently authorize a purchase order,
Put either or, then one will be generally available.
clerk or? So,
It's or,
yeah. So clerk or township supervisor may independently authorize a purchase order and/or agreement not to exceed $15,000.
okay. And the paragraph up above there, those numbers 1 through 9, we have to adhere to those a little bit better in the clerk's office right now. So, well, checks going out willy-nilly quite often, so that shouldn't be.
Well,
I'm trying to watch it very carefully on some of those. I'll say this is not in our,
Well, if you look, that's why going back to, the discussion we had just in in the sentence above there, where we talked about less than $500. I mean, you're really trying to capture those exceptions outside of this area. I mean, again, you don't want purchase orders for utilities or.
no, but I mean, when we cut checks, we're gonna have to adhere to this, our rules that a little more often, instead of somebody just say, come on in and cut a check for this or this or that. There are some townships that cut checks once a month, period, once a month. And
Well, we don't
no
have.
outside. They get all their utilities lined up and they get everything lined up to once a month for their board meeting. So sometimes we're cutting them every day, it seems like. So that's just my side note. That's not for the board to, I mean, that's just me trying to watch. So anyway, and then the next paragraph, any purchase or requesting exceeds,
1,500. Um, 15 was $1,500
okay,
there.
yeah, okay.
And then 5,000 are the other two numbers down below.
Okay.
Can I say something? Can I ask a question real
Absolutely.
quick? 4.6 expense reimbursement. 4.6B, should we be saying anything in there about our cell phones that are getting paid? So you guys are reimbursing us. We pay the cell bill and then you guys reimburse us $75.
We passed that in, did we put that in the benefits ordinance?
This B is for travel and meals and so forth.
And
related.
personal expenses. I mean, a cell phone.
Well,
expense?
personal meals and personal expenses during travel, that wouldn't, the phones wouldn't fit in that category.
So should the phones have their own category then? Because it is a reimbursement.
I think it's,
It's someplace.
I think
There's
it's
a
in the
policy we have on
benefits.
that
It's
separate.
someplace.
There's a policy that,
Okay.
because we had a vote, there's a resolution, I think, or a policy that's, I think it's the benefits. It's part of the benefits
okay.
package.
Okay.
Yeah,
Elected officials,
this,
yeah.
that would not fit
Well,
in
I
here.
just didn't want something to get skipped.
Yep,
That's
no.
all.
Yeah, other people get it besides
Yeah.
us. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
If their phone number's in
7.
the webpage.
Anything else?
I was looking at the newspapers. I mean, it says not limited to, so it's not and or, it's or.
Where are you?
So it's like
Right.
7. Antrim Review, Elk Rapids News, or Traverse City Record Eagle newspaper. It's not all, it's but limited to. Okay. I had to read that several times. There was nothing else on there. Oh, there was one thing. The township clerk shall verify the account numbers assigned to the invoices. Do we want to leave that in there or?
Well, I would put clerk's office. Yes. Yeah, because, again, this is why I brought up, or at the budget time, for an account. Because
know, I
we do
know.
not have a good discipline
Mm-mm.
in the clerk's office for bookkeeping and ensuring basic routines are followed.
And a lot of accounts are being used that don't even have money in there
Right.
or
And it
they're
just-
willy-nilly.
It creates a real, and sometimes they book things in one account and next month they book it in a different account and it's the same item. So,
Same item, just different month.
yeah. So, I have an idea on how to handle that, that I'll bring to the board probably November, December. But as of right now, the deputy clerk is trying to do the work and she wants to be given the chance to do it. So we'll see if we can't make that a little better.
The other only note that I had on here was at the bottom of that page 7 there, where it says utilities and all regular ongoing expenses like MERS, TAA, all first of month. I want to make sure insurances are in there because
So you want
it's
it,
health insurance is in there. All those need to be the first of, it says all of first of month payments. Well,
so do you want to add what you want included? Do you want sub bullets under here?
I have a list of all first of the month stuff
All
that
right,
should be
well-
done.
Well, then give me that list
All right.
and we'll insert we'll put in here, we'll insert the list from the treasurer.
Okay. Because they're not getting done on first of the
No, that's
month.
fine. That's why we're doing a policy, so that we can point to it and say, you're not doing your job, or you are doing your job.
Right, right. Well, we don't have a lot of credit cards, which is a good thing, and the auditor loves that.
Yeah, he was fine with all that.
Yeah, he was fine all that. And so this is good because every year they ask,
Yep.
do you have more credit cards issued to the, and he loves it when you don't.
Yep.
Because he hates credit cards. So
All right, so that's
that's
fine.
good there. And then you had changes of the office on page 9 there.
Yep, we
So
got that.
I was good with that.
And then page 10 is the inventory. And this was the inventory for fixed assets. What are we going to record as on the balance sheet versus an expense account?
That I don't know.
And I've got the number from him, it's $5,000,
For here, $5,000.
5,000 in each of those two. Everything else gets expensed. We're not going to be loading up the balance sheet with stuff.
Okay.
5,000 for capital as well as for,
Intangible stuff.
so it just reduces our list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I mean, it's not like
yep.
our credit, we have to present a balance sheet to somebody for a credit report, so we should make it simple.
On page 11 at the very top, typically in small townships, the auditors do the GASB. So it says on here, the clerk shall add or remove fixed assets. Can I say that the clerk and/or township auditors? Because they're the ones that's been doing it for us.
So clerk or township auditors,
Right.
that's fine.
Are you still at 4.10?
No. 4.10B.
10B.
10B.
Yep, top of page 11.
The clerk or township auditors is, because they're actually the ones doing the GASB 34 for us. And that's typical of small townships.
All right. So any other items on 4.0?
Are we going to go back through this one more time then?
Do you-
With,
If,
with like these changes or,
we can-
I just need to give them to you then, right?
right,
The
right,
that
we
list.
can,
That's my own
we
personal
can
list.
approve that 4.0 is reviewed, and we'll have changes made for final review at the next meeting, but
Okay,
it's just to review that it's there.
okay,
We
so,
will not move it to the resolution package yet.
but we can add like my list of those things
Right,
there. Okay,
exactly.
all right, all right. I didn't know if you needed
You own
those
that list,
in
Bob.
advance or not, or we'll make sure you get them.
Yep, you need to get it. All right. That concludes the policies.
Working right along here, aren't we?
For today, yes.
For today, yes. So again, board, thank you for your work on this. We've got 2 more meetings. And then the finished product will be presented in a resolution package at the November board meeting. So the next agenda item is public comment. We have
Do you-
no,
You're talking about next month, you might have a conflict of interest with the date of the next meeting.
well, I'm going to get to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
all right.
jumped ahead. Never
Public
mind.
comment, there's no public comment. Board comment. So my board comment,
Sorry.
my board comment is the fact that I have a conflict on October 22nd. I have to be out. That would be our next meeting. I will be out of the township. So the question is, can your calendars work for October 21st?
day before.
I'll be away those days,
You'll be away the
21st
22nd.
and the 22nd.
Okay. How about the 19th?
No, I'm
That's
leaving right after
hunting,
the
is
board,
that-
I'm leaving right after the board meeting. Will not be back till Sunday.
Okay.
The 19th, isn't that our monthly?
Yeah,
That's
that's
our
our
board
board meeting. All right, so
Any other time I'll be here.
You're leaving the 18th or night, right after the board meeting?
Well,
Okay.
that next day,
is that your hunting, right?
yes, I'm going to be gone.
Okay. What's the date for Monday then?
It's the 25th.
11, 18, or 25.
25th. So how's the 25th work?
Good.
I've got my eye appointment. They're going to
Okay.
dilate me and, well, 3:00 is my appointment night, but I got to drive to Traverse City.
Okay, so would people be willing to go for like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
Whatever.
Jason, what's your,
I gotta check, make sure I don't have a zoning meeting. That's so many of them.
there's,
No, it's fine.
okay, so the
Friday's
25th,
off.
we'll start at 10.
Okay,
We'll be done at noon.
is that okay, Bob?
Yeah, it's okay with me.
Bob's retired.
I'm feeling less and less sick.
So October,
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah.
10 to 12.
You have my tree stand by that.
Okay, good. That's helpful.
All right,
That's,
that's my board comment.
we'll have to make sure Kath,
None,
we'll
Jason?
have to make sure Kathy knows then.
Yep. No comment? Sharon?
None.
All right, I'll make the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.
So 25th,
25th
And-
at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
well, I'd like to add thank you to you guys. This is not easy work and I appreciate you sticking with it here.
Well,
We're
you're
gonna get this done.
sticking with us, so
Look at what you're doing.
10 o'clock.
You got a
Just
minute?
shuffling papers.
Hey, Jason, do you have a minute for me or do you have to run?
Yeah, I can give you a couple minutes.